or to get targeted is to not be seen. This is obvious. This is a simplistic fact that anyone in the world could tell you. Yet we seem to forget that when we're in the city. When you're in the city, there's a lot of influences, a lot of things drawn in on it. We feel the need to express ourselves as individuals. But you mustn't give anything away. You have no reason to tell people personal facts about you. They don't need to know that you're a wog. They don't need to know what your personal shopping habits are. All of these things are gathered by people and they can be used against you as a judgment. So when you dress like this in the city, you have to ask yourself, is dressing and acting like a tactical wog a help or a hindrance?
There's certain things that transcend the scenario in which it's part of. For example, if you're lost in the wilderness and you find that you come to the realization, oh my gosh, I'm lost. Well, the first thing that has to happen is you have to realize that you're lost and you have problems and you don't know where you are, you have no idea where you're going to be going, you have no idea how to get there. So in order to figure that out, what you do is you have to stop. First thing you got to do is you got to stop. And in the first season, we talked a lot about that. We talked about pulling back, assessing all the equipment that you need to have, and so on and so forth. But how do you keep track of where you are as a person in life? Just as when you're lost, you have to keep track of all your possessions and everything you have, yada yada, so you can see how you can figure a way out of being lost. That same sort of metaphor can apply to life. And I found that one of the greatest ways to figure out where you're going and the direction that you want to go is to externalize your own perspective on your life. That's what I would recommend. And there's no greater tool to do this that I've found over the years than role-playing games. Anybody who's ever played role-playing games, chances are people watching this have never been exposed to real role-playing games. They always have the computer role-playing games. And don't get me wrong, I think there's nothing wrong with computer role-playing games. I think they're excellent. I think they're a lot of fun. But they're definitely not book role-playing games. Because the book role-playing games are, well, they're better. They enable the mind. They have a community. It's a great thing to do to get together with people. Now, whenever you talk about role-playing games, of course, there's so many different systems, and you think the Linux Microsoft thing is bad. Bah, that's nothing. You got to see what happens when you got like 25 different gamers who are all in love with different systems. It really gets bad. So what I recommend to everyone, whether you're a gamer or not, is to actually make yourself a character sheet. Now, this is something that gets taught in roundabout ways by writing creative workshops and executive groups. So make a list of your strengths and weaknesses, whatever. What they're actually saying is make yourself a character sheet. Because realistically, that's what a resume is. That's what you do to try to sell yourself to a company, is you make this resume. And what is a resume but a character sheet, really? But what if you were to take a character sheet and make one that you could see where your own strengths and weaknesses are, and therefore you could plan ways to make yourself better or worse. So I'm just going to give you kind of my roundabout version of a character sheet. Now, if you are a gamer or you want to get involved with role-playing games, you're like, what is this role-playing game thing about? You do some research online, check it out, see all the different systems out there. By all means, go with a system that you enjoy. I have my preferences, but that's regardless. Okay, so what I've done is I've kind of mixed and matched a bunch of different systems together, and I'm just going to give you sort of a generalized format. So after watching this, you'll be able to kind of make a sheet for yourself and figure out where's your direction? What direction do you want to go? So on your sheet, you want to have the following physical characteristics. This has to do with your physical body and what have you. So you've got your strength, usually measured on a scale between 1 to 10. Some people like to do it on a scale between 1 to 20. And with role-playing games, it's generated by dice and that. But for you, I generally think of myself on a scale from 1 to 20. And you do like some sort of mathematical thing. Well, if 1, you could lift 20 pounds. So it's quite easy. 10 is as strong as you could humanly possibly be. 1 would be like, crippled or what have you. So you pick yourself out a space somewhere along there. I like using 1 to 20 because it's not quite so finite. Average on 1 to 20 is 10. So I'm going to say my strength is about I work out and I run a little bit, so I'm going to put my strength at about 12. Now, there'll be those that sit there and say, well, Sean, you're, and of course I'm running sideways too, so it looks like hell. And then underneath strength, we've got intelligence. Strength, intelligence. Intelligence, that's not necessarily your wisdom. That's a different stat. The difference between intelligence and wisdom, intelligence is how well you can think. Wisdom is how well you can apply the experiences you've had in life. And those are a little bit heady, but there is quite a difference. There's lots of intelligent people out there who just do really dumb things repeatedly. Now, I would put my intelligence probably around, on a scale from 1 to 20. I'm going to be a little bit generous about myself here, and I'm going to give myself, say, a 13 intelligence on a scale of 1 to 20. Okay? Your wisdom, I've done a lot of stuff. I have done a lot of stuff. So I'm going to get a little bit buffy with my wisdom here, and I'm going to make my wisdom 15. Whoa! I'm sure there's gamers out there like, hey man, Rastlin only had a 14 wisdom. Okay, well, whatever. I'm going to give myself a 15 wisdom. If you can change this later, what have you. You have your dexterity, Your dexterity is how flexible you are. A 20 would be like a ninja or Bruce Lee. 1 would be smokehouse. So what I would do instead of trying to classify yourself that way, I'd look around, probably put it in around the I stretch fairly often. I'll put it up there with my strength, which would be 12 again. Now, and again, if this is a role-playing game, all this would be randomly generated. But this is me. This is me that we're creating a character sheet for. So you have a lot more, leeway of what you think of yourself. You can go all egotistical, say, yeah, I'm the smartest guy ever, but you're not going to have an accurate character sheet then. You have to be honest with yourself. No one has to see this but you. Then you have your constitution. How tough are you in reference of getting sick, that kind of thing? Do you get sick often? Your bones prone to breaking? Have you had a lot of injuries growing up? That's got nothing to do with your fighting spirit. It just means how much punishment your body can take. My body can take a lot of punishment. So I'm going to give myself a 15 constitution as well. Then you've got your charisma, your ability to speak to people, be influenced, make friends easily, that kind of thing. And that is something that I can do. So I'm going to go absolutely crazy, give myself a 16 charisma. And your comeliness, which of course is your physical appearance only, how well you can dress up or look all haughty or whatever. Okay, that's sort of the general idea. Charisma offshoots your comeliness because there's lots of really ugly people who've got a lot of charisma. I give you Mick Jagger. I mean, his comeliness is like 0. But, he's got thousands and thousands of adoring fans. Why is that? Well, because he's got very high charisma. So for me, my comeliness, I'm going to plant that at about a good solid 7. So, we've got, underneath, once you get your physical attributes down, now in role-playing games, you use these attributes and they generate everything else. But since we're not part of any particular gaming system, this is just a general outline to give you sort of an idea where you're at. Then you've got your name, which of course is going to be Sean for me here. I'll just write that in, Sean. Okay. My code name will be SKTFM. And then my age, I'm 31. Ouch. That's really old. Then we have your health. Now, health points and all that kind of jazz, this is usually where you get the idea of hit points and how much damage you can take in a game before you die. So like, in Call of Cthulhu, for example, a game that's won all kinds of awards, if you get shot, you generally get killed right away. And I would recommend games that make guns lethal because it gives you a lot more accuracy in your role-playing scenarios that you may or may not endure. So you have your health, which has to do with how much poison you can take in your body, that kind of a thing. And depending on the system, I'm just going to say I've got 20 health points. Your SDC, which comes from Palladium, which means structural damage capacity. I give Palladium full credits for this. This was a concept they had that certain items increase your toughness. For example, if you get shot and you're wearing body armor, well, the armor absorbs the impact, right? Or if you've got subdermal armor due to cybernetic implants, that kind of a thing, the armor takes the damage. You yourself do not. You yourself will not be slowed down because your armor was damaged. So I'm going to have 0 STC because right now I'm wearing a Kung Fu outfit. There's no leather armor. There's nothing like that. And of course, your hit points. This is how much of a beating you can take. Now, hit points are kind of a funny thing because once you're, like any gamer would know, once your hit points are 0, you're dead.